Hello, welcome to another video essay. We're going to get right into it. And the question of today, I'm sure you already read the title, is should influencers, content creators, whoever, your favorite, characters on the internet, should they talk about politics online? Should they make their political opinions known publicly? And if they do, does it even actually do anything? Let's talk about it. If you're new here, I'm Carla. I talk about pop culture, sustainability, fast fashion, that sort of thing. And I also post vlogs about my hobbies like crocheting and just my life as an American living in London. So if you're interested in any of that, please do subscribe. We recently hit 2,000 subscribers, which I was very happy about. So thank you for supporting a small channel by watching this video. And let's get into it. In light of the 2024 election, which I did a video of my very raw and immediate reaction to that here if you want to watch it, I think people's opinions on this issue of whether or not influencers should talk about politics has really, really changed. And I think any of us who have been on the internet since the mid 2010s, around 2014, that era, we've seen the opinion on this kind of oscillate. So back then, the vibe was very much, hell yeah, cancel them. People need to speak out on every single topic that ever exists, canceling people left and right, even though cancel culture actually doesn't have that big of an impact on people. I then think we got into a period of being okay, maybe this is a bit too much. We don't need to expect your favorite beauty blogger to know everything about what's happening in the Middle East. Maybe we need to take a step back in expecting these things from these people. But I think we're slowly going back the other way of saying politics are so divisive now in the US and all around the world, honestly, that it's no longer, okay, I don't necessarily need to know a creator's opinions about taxes, but I sure as hell do want to know about their opinions on LGBTQ rights, immigration, reproductive rights, etc., etc. So you kind of already know where I stand, but we're going to talk about all of it. But since the election results came out last Tuesday, I think a lot of people feel that when some of these political issues are literally a matter of life or death for some people, it feels very odd and insensitive and lazy and uneducated to not speak out if you have a large platform. But something I would say makes the case even more for people to leverage social media influencers in politics is the fact that that is exactly what the right has done and what they have done quite successfully. So many young people, and especially young men, have been radicalized by the right with influencers like Andrew Tate, the Paul brothers, Joe Rogan, etc. And we'll talk about this, but, a big part of how Trump won the election was via the influence of social media influencers, content creators, who he partnered up with and who many members of the public actually spend quite a lot of time with. We all spend so many hours or minutes of our days and weeks scrolling on social media. So at this point, to ever claim that it doesn't have any real world impact is foolish, in my opinion. And it's for this reason that the opinion that influencers shouldn't talk about politics because it's not their job, it doesn't sit right with me anymore, and I don't think it sits right with a lot of other people. Also, if you're watching this part of the video, comment the birthday cake emoji, because I think after this I'm gonna make a mug cake. I'm really hungry. I saw this TikTok from Kate Glavin, and I feel like it summed things up pretty perfectly.
As an influencer, a lot of your favorite influencers are fucking embarrassing and fucking pathetic. To be a woman in America with a huge fucking platform and a huge audience and post nothing yesterday, business as usual, just I'm going to my Pilates and I'm going to my brunch. No one gives a fuck about your Amazon storefront or your fucking makeup routine. You should be ashamed when you have so many young impressionable women following you, looking up to you as a role model. Also, you're making income off of these women and you decided to post nothing yesterday. And I understand you live in this privileged, naive bubble, and I'm talking about white women right now. You live in this privileged, naive bubble where you don't think any of this shit affects you. It affects your followers nonetheless, okay? Maybe you should give a fuck about other people. Like, maybe you should try some of that sometime. And if you want to give me the next shit of, I'm uneducated and I don't know anything about politics and I want to stay neutral and apolitical. How embarrassing. You sit on your phone for 12 fucking hours every single day. Look something up, rent a book, listen to a podcast. I don't fucking know. To say that you're uneducated in the digital age is so fucking embarrassing, okay? And every woman that I know that was a fucking influencer that posted nothing yesterday, just a basic acknowledgement of just like, wow, it's a scary time to be a woman. I'm unfollowing everyone, and these people should not have fucking platforms when you have young women looking up to you and you couldn't post the bare fucking minimum about what was going on in America yesterday. Oh my God.
I love her for that. I think that's great. Also, side note, I don't follow her, but I know her face from scrolling on TikTok. And one day I saw her in London, but I had no clue what her name was. So I just, went about my life, and eventually she popped up on my For You page again, and I was like, oh, she's an American who moved to London. Love that for us. But I really like that video because I think it is, even though it's very in your face, it is so fair and actually gives a lot of grace to a certain extent to influencers who want to be apolitical, who don't want to make anyone upset. She says you could literally just acknowledge this is scary for other people, even if it doesn't impact me. And like she says, to use the excuse of, oh, I'm just uneducated, I don't want to spread misinformation. It's just boring. It's stupid because it's yeah, she's right. Those people are the types of people who are spending hours and hours on end on their phones every single day. And, they could take the time to educate themselves on things that matter to them or matter to their followers or who matter to literally anyone. Just care a little bit about these real life things that are happening as a result of this election. And she's kind of iconic because even in the comments, she was continuing to pile it on really big names, which I respect because she's an influencer. She makes her money from social media, and her calling out someone like Alex Earl, who's apparently the most followed influencer on TikTok or something, shows that she doesn't really care if she's making an enemy by not being apolitical, by calling out someone who is probably on paper way more successful on social media and more powerful in that industry than she is. So I want to share some stats that show just how important influencers were in the 2024 election. So first, from the Pew Research Center, we know that more than half of US adults turn to social media for news at least some of the time, putting influencers in direct competition with traditional news outlets for audience attention. And I studied journalism for my master's, and I am well aware of this. People are increasingly losing trust in legacy media outlets. I think kind of at the root of it, it's just that getting your news on social media while scrolling in bite-sized pieces of content from people who talk like you is a lot more accessible than reading an article or a long read in a newspaper. Now, does that mean that getting your news on social media is the only way you should consume your news and information? Probably not. I don't think so. But I'm just stating, the facts is that people spend a lot of time on social media. It's only natural that they're going to get some of their news from there. Wired actually made these really helpful graphics of the most influential people on the left and on the right. And as you can see on the right, these, they're much bigger names. So I think the left has a lot of work to do in terms of becoming more obnoxious on social media. And more relatable / accessible, that's a really big part of it. And a survey from the global creator agency Billion Dollar Boy determined that at least 1 in every 4 creators was approached by political campaigns and organizations to produce political content ahead of the 2024 election. And this year was the first time that the Democratic National Convention credentialed influencers alongside journalists. First year the Democrats did it. Definitely not the first year that the Republicans did it. I know a creator on TikTok who has 2,000 or 3,000 followers, and even they were approached by like a political organization to make content around the election. So I believe this 1 in 4 statistic, but it's pretty wild. And the Republican Party is, maybe in contrast to the Democratic Party, really proud of being immersed in online culture. So after Trump won, Dana White, who is the CEO of UFC, actually took to the stage to personally thank the influencers that, ultimately helped them win the election, saying, "I want to thank the Nelk Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bussin' with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan." And you might be thinking like, okay, but Kamala Harris had Brett Summer. Kamala is Brett. That was a whole trend on TikTok that was all-encompassing and really uplifting content, and like it took over the internet for a while. But the thing is, the people who watch creators or listen to creators like Joe Rogan are obsessed, like they are in that world. They listen to those 4-hour-long episodes. I don't want to generalize, but they might be spending a lot of time doing that and not outside or not talking to people. And I don't think that compares to Kamala's Brett. I'm not saying that that trend had no influence or that it wasn't impactful in any way or that it wasn't something different that the Democratic Party had never done before. It was. But I think, and I mean, I kind of know because the Democrats did not win, that the Democrats and Harris's campaign didn't go far enough in leveraging influencer culture. The Harris campaign prioritized short-form clips, investing in quick videos and viral remixes on TikTok and Instagram. The Trump campaign went deep and long, investing heavily in long-form YouTube podcasts and building partnerships with live streamers. Ultimately, the latter proved wildly more successful. Something else that I found quite insightful from this Hollywood Reporter article was an interview with Brendan Gahan, who is CEO of Creator Authority, an influencer marketing agency, and he's also done work with Democratic politicians. And he says that the mistake that Harris made was approaching creators as media channels rather than as collaborators. Trump immersed himself in creator culture, met them where they were, and embraced their mediums. He's done things like inviting creators on his private plane and hanging out with them there. And I guess this isn't that surprising because he is a businessman, a failed one, but a businessman nonetheless. And so naturally, he's going to be a master charmer, making people feel important, making it seem like they've got the in to his inner world. And I want to make clear that I don't necessarily think that this is the way things should be. And I talked about this a lot in my other election video, but I think that this is the new world that we live in, and that elections are going to be increasingly influenced by influencers. It is scary because I do agree with the fact that an influencer's job is not to be a politician, but they're who we spend a lot of time with and they're who we get a lot of information from. And if you find yourself with that platform, I do think you have a duty to speak out on issues that literally impact people's human rights. The Hollywood Reporter also interviewed a conservative influencer called Jessica Reed Krause, who has over 1.3 million followers on Instagram. And she described the election night party at Mar-a-Lago as packed with influencers, content creators. She said, "It's a huge victory for us, for those online who helped make it happen, and who got his message out. There's a whole power shift. It's just a testament to how much people have lost trust in the traditional media." And I agree with her, actually, that it is a testament to the fact that this is the new world we live in, and this is the type of media that a lot of the electorate is paying the most attention to. But not all hope is lost. I think that this gives people on the left or in the center, or just anyone, to learn the lessons of this election and to take online creator culture more seriously in order to reach new audiences. So while it is quite scary that these influencers hold a lot of power in some ways, but like I said, I think it does give the Democrats an opportunity to try and harness some of this power for themselves by collaborating with other influencers during the next election cycle. And I love the way that they ended this article saying, "Influencers are human and will have a political opinion whether they choose to share it or not. Being pressured into posting about politics can sometimes end up causing more harm than good. At the same time, choosing not to post anything at all during such a divisive election is a choice. So is following an account. And this touches on something that I think is really interesting and I should have talked about earlier. But it's that we as consumers also hold power because we can say, I don't want to follow someone who believes in these things or who promotes these things or who stays silent. Like, we are able to say that. And yes, we're only one person and maybe they have like hundreds of millions of followers, but it's a start. And, you know, you're kind of, in a way, like how we say we vote with our dollar, you're voting with your likes and follows, your engagement. I mean, you literally are. Because that's how these creators get so much influence and thus brand deals and payment, etc. And yes, I don't think that an interior design content creator should become my source of news and politics. Nor do I want them to be, because if we didn't have these nice things to distract ourselves and to just entertain us, then we would be much less happy. But like they said in this article, I do think when it comes to issues that affect people's livelihood, it is difficult to continue to support someone who doesn't hold the same morals and values. I would be really curious to know what you think about this topic. Like, should influencers be talking about politics on social media? And I'm especially curious to hear if your opinion on this has changed since this recent election and election cycle. Because I think a lot of us would not have predicted that we'd be in this particular predicament, both online and in the real world, even like 6 years ago. Things have changed a lot, but we have to change with them. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, maybe actually give it a little like, because that helps me out a lot. And as always, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!